Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this thematic session on women at the front lines of climate action, biodiversity, and land restoration, community-led pathways to achieve sustainable development goals. This discussion is a part of the parallel tracks taking place alongside the 25th edition of the World Sustainable Development Summit. My name is Sonika Karmakar, and I'm working as the regional coordinator for Northeast for the Small Grants Program at the Energy and Resources Institute, and I'll be an MC for the evening. The thematic track today brings together multiple stakeholders from the government, UN, civil society organizations to foster multi-stakeholder knowledge sharing to advance dialogue, learning, and collaboration for women-led community-based climate action. Before we begin, there's a brief safety note that I have to read out to you. We are in Jehangir Hall, which is at the mezzanine floor of the building. The hall has 2 doors for entry and exit. There is no mock drill planned for today. All the hotel associates have been trained to handle emergencies. In case of an emergency, please remain calm and follow the instructions of the hotel and event staff. Thank you and have a great evening. Today's session brings together leading experts and practitioners to explore community-led pathways and institutional mechanisms for achieving the SDGs through the JEF Small Grants Program India. We will now begin the speaker interventions for this session. It is my pleasure to invite Dr. Dipankar Saharia, Senior Director, Social Transformation and Strategic Alliance, TERI, to deliver the welcome address and introduce the thematic track. Sir.
Thank you, Sonika. A warm welcome to all the guests present here today. Ms. Isabel, Deputy Resident Representative UNDP India, Mr. Ashish Chaturvedi, Sandeep, REC members, distinguished panelists, delegates, respected community leaders, practitioners, and my colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It's a privilege to address this thematic track on women at the front lines of climate action, biodiversity, and land restoration, community-led pathways to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. This theme reflects a powerful and growing reality across India's landscape, where women are not only responding to environmental challenges, but are actively shaping resilience, inclusive, and local grounded solutions. Across forests, farmland, coastal ecosystems, and women have emerged as a steward of land, water, biodiversity, and livelihood in taking forward the different missions and programs that we are doing along with our Government of India programs. Their leadership demonstrates that climate action, ecosystem restoration, sustainable development are most effective when rooted in community knowledge and driven by inclusive governance. The Small Grant Program, where TERI has been the host institution, and I being completely involved in this particular program, has been designed precisely with this understanding that to strengthen socio-ecological resilience and sustainable livelihood across 3 globally significant Indian landscape through community-driven action. The program rests on 3 interconnected pillars: building resilient landscape for sustainable development, strengthening participatory governance while scaling up the best practices and ensuring robust monitoring and evaluation system that make impact visible, accountable, and scalable. And this is exactly the way that we have executed the Operation 7 phase of the Small Grant Program. During the 7th operation phase, this approach was implemented across multiple ecologically critical regions of the country, the northeastern landscape, the coastal region of Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra, and the central semi-arid landscape of Madhya Pradesh. Despite the ecologically diversity, the challenges are very common across all the landscapes. Climate vulnerability, land degradation, biodiversity loss, and livelihood insecurity, challenges that communities, particularly women, are uniquely positioned to address. The environmental outcomes achieved during this phase are both significant and measurable, as we have always been sharing the targets that have been met in the operations phase 7. We have achieved restoration of over 10,000 hectares of land, of degraded land. We have achieved currently about 23,000 hectares in the improved practices that we have executed, but we are going to achieve the target of nearing 60,000 hectares that is there in the Operation 7. In the marine coastal systems, 749 hectares of marine habitat have been under improved management with projected spillover effect benefiting more than 1,200 additional hectares over time. Complementing these efforts, decentralized clean energy solutions have resulted in installation of 0.647 megawatts of renewable energy capacity, primarily through solar and biogas systems, delivering tangible fuel load saving and reducing household level emission. Equally compelling is the scale of social impact generated through the interventions. More than 30,000 community members have been directly benefited, and this is a real number that we have benefited across all the landscapes in our Operation Phase 7. And out of this, over 14,000 beneficiaries are women. That shows the participation of women in the entire program of OP7. These women have been central to initiative in sustainable agriculture practices, land restoration, fishery management, renewable energy adaptation, and local governance. I think local governance is one of the most important part that the women have played in Operation 7. Beyond income and resource access, the program has strengthened women roles in decision making, leadership, collective action outcomes that are critical for long-term resilience. Strong governance and accountability mechanism have underpinned this progress. Program resulted in being endorsed to the panchayat level leaders, to the district collector, where specifically we had the district level platforms, which has been absolutely useful in the monitoring and evaluation and proper execution of the phase of our operation phase, because that is how we really involve all the stakeholders in taking and also in part of the co-finance that is so much needed in this particular phase. So along with this, we had to have a very strong monitoring system where our senior management of TERI, including DG, have visited many of these places where we have seen very successful execution of partners, including a very interior place in Udalguri district, if somebody knows here, in the Bodoland Territorial Council of Assam. So this kind of strong monitoring system has made the overall success that we have been seeing and will finally come to know after the entire process is complete. We have 71 implementing partners, and all partners have been selected through a robust system of selection process that starts with the Regional Advisory Committee. We are very honored to have some of the Regional Advisory Committee members today with us. And then to the Technical Advisory Group, the second layering, and finally the Steering Committee, National Steering Committee, that have selected the 59 partners, that are scaling partners, and the 2 knowledge partners that we have in taking forward this entire Operation Phase 7 of the Small GAN program. Continuous partner engagement has been the defining feature of this phase. Regular progress review meetings have enabled real-time assessment. And one of the very important part which I have experienced during the execution is our partnership and collaboration, because what is it really helped us that, it is not about monitoring and evaluation that we do. We are partner. We help them out in developing from the proposal phase itself. We were there. We have shown the way how we can really execute programs as a partner. We have many partners. They would be very, willing to share the experience that how Terry has been involved in developing the entire, from the proposal development to the execution to the monitoring evaluation. We are all together, and it has not been on one-sided that, we give grants and we are just monitoring it across. When viewed through the lens of sustainable development goals, I think this is one of the, projects where we have measurable sustainable in development goals that can be really measured. Otherwise, we say we do a particular thing, but it is an impact of sustainable development goals we see. But here you have numbers to really prove that we are having this a particular sustainable development goals being achieved. The the sustainable goal number 1, that is no poverty, climate resilient livelihood, have been supported over 30,000 direct beneficiary, and the number scales up to many in terms of indirect beneficiaries. 22,000 hectares under sustainable agriculture practices, that is zero hunger, that comes under SDG 2. SDG 5, this gender equality that I have already mentioned, over 14,000 women participation and direct beneficiary under the project. And affordable, SDG 7, affordable and clean energy, we are executing renewable energy projects, both solar and biogas. And the SDG 11, sustainable cities and communities through development implementation of 3 landscape level strategies that integrate biodiversity conservation, ecosystem services, and sustainable energy use. Under SDG 12, responsible practices, consumption and production, improved land management practices have been applied across more than, again, 22,000 hectares. Then as I move on, it is SDG 13, climate action, that everything that we do climate action, and indirectly we have beneficiaries that get benefited out of the outcome of this. SDG 14, life below water, as we know the kind of projects that we have done in the coastal areas and how it has really improved, especially the fishermen community in the state of Tamil Nadu. So overall, we are going to achieve all the targets of OP7. And as we reflect this achievement, now we look ahead with a purpose, building the lessons and the momentum that we have learned in the 7 operation phase, and now we are entering the operation phase 8, which has already been signed, and we look forward that we start its execution very soon. This phase is equally challenging, but we are very confident that we will take this forward in the way that we have taken forward the OP7. The next phase will expand its footprint across a very different kind of landscape this time. The Aravallis spanning Delhi, Haryana, Rajasthan, and Gujarat. The Western Ghat in Goa this time, earlier where we were in Maharashtra. Goa and Karnataka, coastal region including Odisha and Sundarbans that has been included. The northeastern states of Meghalaya, Arunachal Pradesh has been added now, and the adjoining districts that we had earlier done for Assam and Meghalaya, and the fragile Himalayan landscape. So today morning we had a very interesting plenary on Himalayan, collision that will, finally shape up. And I just want to again mention about the Center for Himalayan Studies that Terry has set up in Guwahati University in association with Balipara Foundation and EC Mode. So that is something, but this is the work that is being taken up would definitely be Arunachal, the west coming district of Tawang, Ladakh, Kargil, and Uttarakhand. These landscape will demand even deeper community leadership, stronger institutional partnership, and a continued focus on women. The evidence from OP7 clearly demonstrates that when women lead restoration, climate action, and biodiversity conservation, the outcomes are more inclusive, resilient, and sustainable. because as we know our examples at home, that if your mother takes the lead, we are generally successful. And I think Madam could speak more on how, we have and transition in Terry itself. In closing, women are the front lines, are not waiting for solutions. They are already designing, implementing, and sustaining them. Our collective responsibility is to recognize this leadership, invest in it, and scale it. If you are serious about achieving sustainable development goals, we must ensure that women remain firmly at the center of climate action, biodiversity conservation, and land restoration. Thank you so much. A warm welcome to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for summarizing what lies at the core of the Small Grants program and setting the tone for this session. We will now start with the panel discussions. The first panel discussion, Women at the Front Lines of Climate Action, Community-Led Pathways to Achieve SDGs. This session will explore community-led pathways towards the SDGs as our experts share a dynamic range of perspectives and engage in a discussion on the critical role that women play in climate resilience. It is my pleasure to introduce our chair and moderator, Ms. Nandita Hazarika, Consultant Natural Resource Management and Environment and member of the Northeast Region Regional Advisory Committee. Ma'am, if you please. I would now like to introduce our panelists. Dr. Vibha Dhawan, Director General of TERI. Ma'am, I'll request you to please take a seat on the stage. Ms. Isabel Shan, Deputy Resident Representative, UNDP India. Dr. Bhavani Rao R., Dean of School of Social and Behavioral Sciences, Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham, Coimbatore. And Ms. Kalpana Khare, Director Gramonnati Sansthan, Chhatarpur, Madhya Pradesh. I now invite the moderator for this session, Ms. Nandita ma'am, to please begin this important conversation, and I'm handing the session over to you. Do we have a hand mic? Ma'am, I'll get you a hand. Next to you. Yeah, sure.
Thank you, Shonika. We can now formally start this evening's discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor and privilege to be the moderator for this session. I must admit that the UNDP Small Grants Program is a very old program. I've been associated with it remotely and closely since the last 30 years. And I'm also an ex-TERI person, so it gives me great pleasure to be amongst my ex-colleagues and friends. I was a member of the UNDP Small Grants Steering Committee program way back in the late 90s. So the millennials and the Gen Z here may not connect really with the 90s. They were probably toddlers or, young children. But those, my peers here and my ex-colleagues and friends, they may recollect. And then being in TERI, I was also a grantee. TERI was also a grantee of the Small Grants Program in the late 90s. But now we have sort of upgraded and risen, to being now the catalyst. Yes, so that time the funding, Isabel, if I may call you, Nishan, was 15 lakh rupees was the grant amount. Now which has been elevated to 50 lakhs. So that's a huge, jump and very good for the CBOs and organizations which work in the field. So, but before we start, may I gently remind we are short of time. We started late, so we just have 30 minutes. So I shall give our distinguished panel here 5 to 6 minutes each, if that is okay. And then we'll have about 10 minutes or so open, for deliberations. And let me also introduce, we have an all-women's panel here. Dipankar, you were an exception. Huh? So no offense meant for the gentlemen here. Huh? You can all be critics once we have finished. So as Dipankar said, the core theme today is, of course, women, gender. When you say gender, you always equate it with women. So somehow men don't come into it unless as, our opponents or as. So the SGP framework, is includes and it has gender inclusion and equality as the core priority, and as Dipankar had mentioned that the past, the current phase, which is now coming to an end, I think, by September, if I'm not mistaken, correct me, we have already exceeded, So while we can, be very happy about it, but if you look at how many of these CBOs or organizations which implemented these programs were led by women. So it's a dismal 25% only, And if you look at landscapes, Northeast, I think, has the lowest, which also reflects how there are variations, across landscapes and across thematic areas also. So, and as Dipankar was saying, there was impact. So, an impact is something which is difficult to, also measure. Numbers are good. It's always good to know numbers. And Ms. Shan, I don't know, may disagree, but funding agencies like numbers, so it's always good to give numbers. But then what is more important is whether it has made the impact which we want or not. So while we celebrate the progress, but there are challenges, women are still lacking in leadership roles. We have, there's a lack of access to finance, and because of social and cultural norms, women still do face a lot of challenges. So today's, with this background, we have a few issues which we will discuss today, and these, how do we move, from participation to real decision making, and which again translates into policy, and this, the session which will follow this one will also discuss that. Second, can institutions create enabling environments so that, women's leadership, governance, etc., can they thrive, can we go ahead? And what grassroots innovations, which are led by women, can these be embedded or be incorporated in the policy, So let not the policies always be governed by a very, a top heavy management, but also incorporate, what's happening at the grassroots. So may I begin with our first panelist, MS Isabel Shan. She is as Shoneka had already introduced her, she brings in extensive international development experience in gender equality, socioeconomic development, resilience, and livelihoods. And so, Isabel, may I?
Sure.
Okay. So we have seen that how, women-led sustainable goals, the SDG initiatives, they have been delivering very good results in the field, very impactful results at the community level. But from your point of view, your perspective, so what do you see is the real tipping point, that we move from a project mode, just being projects or programs in the field, to creating an institutional change. And we just don't leave, once the funding finishes, do we just stop everything, So do we, or does our work end, with the project? So how do we go ahead, beyond the project cycle?
Thank you, Nandita ji, if I may call you like this.
Sure, please. We believe in equality.
It's a pleasure for me to be here. And just in the last 10 minutes, I've learned so much about the history of SGB in India. So I didn't know all this history. Let me just say that, I've been for almost 3 years now in India. But obviously, UNDP, we are, a strong partner of SGB, or implementing, through our implementation with implementing partners like Terry in many countries, and in countries I've served before that, I think, do similar work, although the context is obviously very different. But I think if you look at it from a gender perspective, the challenges are very similar, if I may say that, right? They're very similar. And, I will elaborate, but I think, Nandita ji, you have underlined the key points already just by your introduction, moving from participation or sometimes even consultation only to the role of women in decision-making processes at the local level. I think that is that is a nice summary from the very beginning you said, but I think that is definitely key, and what enabling environment are we helping to create, and all knowing that this is not something you can do just in 6 months or 1 year. This is a very long-term process, and understanding the local context and the social norms, even though there are, I think, in every part of the world, very similar in terms of obstacles, but understanding these details matter definitely from the early on when you design the very project. So I think that's the first point, just to understand. And, well, understand the power relations, right? Because it is about power relations. I think there is enough evidence that we know that if women are leading such processes, there is more sustainable outcomes. But how do we get there to women really lead? I think that is the biggest challenge, and for that we need to understand and have this analysis first. I think that's why also, if I may talk about from a UNDP perspective, that's why in every country we really work with different partners, and we work with partners who have this understanding, or, you know, and I think in a huge country or a subcontinent like India, Terry has been for a long time a partner, and well, I think it has been, and we are continuing a very successful partnership. So I think that is definitely one point. So it is, if I understand the power relation, and it is in the end about the redistribution of power. I think that's what it's all about. You said it. I mean, yes, SGP is a lot of small projects, but small projects which I think are very well thought through, and the overall framework in India and elsewhere is very clear. I think, and Jehangir, you also said it it's despite being smaller project at a local level, I think the longer term aspect of it, right, and the learning and the mechanisms we put in place for monitoring and evaluation, I think these matter, and I think there is not so many of huge programs where you have this rigor as well. So, well, we talked about participation, and I will give some examples, but we talked about also, in addition to the participation, what is actually the economic aspect. So, well, the role women have in managing financial assets, if I may, or the economic power, that is definitely, and I think I speak to I don't know, a room full of experts, so I'm sure it's nothing new, but it matters. So understanding this power and how you can shift this power, and how you can have women playing a strong role in local level decision-making processes. I think that is the key, and that's the key to have it also institutionalized and make change, long-lasting change beyond the project. But I think we all have these experiences that it doesn't, I mean, it requires to understanding, and there might be backlashes as well. So how do you do that, and how do you go slowly about it, and how do you work with women leaders to gain that confidence as well? I think that is very, very important as well. So some examples. I think I just wanted, we just discussed before in Assam, this is a foundation, Kalon Kapili Foundation. Yeah, you might know it better than me, but well, it's with the Assam State Rural Livelihood Mission. This was during, the floods, which happen quite often, I think, in one Dhubri district. But I think there, just the mere access of women to schemes helped actually, well, to have additional economic power, access to resources, which empowered women further. And then, well, which, as so often, if the funds are in the hands or managed by women, it helped to have, to contribute directly to the household finances and increase the financial autonomy. I think autonomy is another key word, and strengthen the voice of women in the family. I think that's always the first step, in the family, then the community, and then in decision-making bodies. There are other initiatives, and maybe another interesting one also from Assam. It's a coincidence that all the examples are from Assam. It also these roles which are given by society to men. If women can penetrate some of these roles, there's one example on in Jorhat in Assam, also on Kakoijan beekeeping. So it's on beekeeping, which is men's role most of the time, or in most of the societies, where we have seen that women entered in traditionally male-dominated sector and took a leadership role in the apiary management. Well, again, access to more economic resources leads to for women leads to direct investment in children's education, nutrition and household well-being, and strengthening their role in financial decisions. And maybe here we can add the visibility to see women in this role, which are not traditionally their role, also is another important element, well, helps also the longer term influence of women in local agricultural planning. I will not go because we don't have so much time, but maybe let me just summarize. So when women are part of planning and resource management process, well, from the very beginning, and it is, well, it's not only through one project. One would need to continue that. Well, when we link the space for women's voices to financial management and the women's role in local decision-making bodies. So it requires to transferring this ownership and shifting power dynamics. Often we start with skill building. We know skill building alone is not enough. And maybe let me give you an example which is not SGP, but I think is an interesting example for UNDP's work with partners. It's in Odisha on climate adaptation at the coastal communities, where we have together with the local government, worked on something called the Women Climate Champions. And I had a chance really there to interact with women climate champions for a whole afternoon. I had always read about the reports in my role, but I never had a chance to meet them. And to understand, it's difficult, you said it also, to quantify, but to understand what they went through. These are champions which, yes, there was first capacity building. They were learning what are the different schemes, and well, we're giving that space as ambassador and well, knowledge partners in a way. They described, and this will not be unfamiliar to you, how the resistance they have experienced first from their own husbands, from their own spouses, from the communities, and how many of them wanted to give up. And it's only with long, well, over 2 years work where they have really gained the confidence. And they are now the go-to persons of some local farmers because they have the knowledge. And they can link them, also male farmers, or to schemes. And well, so they gain power. That's, I think, an illustration of how they gain power. So I think that's in a nutshell what I want to contribute based on our experience, I think in India, but beyond. I would like to say that this is not only an India-specific experience. I thank you.
Thank you, Isabel. I mean, I understand your position in, UNDP, because you are not just restricted to one country, and you have to also, look at how the SGP program also is administered in other. So so even implementing the program itself, needs a lot of work, hard work and effort. And it's just not about giving funds. It's about how do you administer the program? How do you ensure that it's the right kind of CBOs and NGOs which get the funding, and how it is implemented in the field. And for that, you do need a catalyst, and that catalyst is Terry. So for OP7, Terry has been managing it, and definitely, they have been providing the technical help. So CBOs, NGOs, the implementing agencies do need support, do need technical support. They, of course, need financial support, but technical support is important. Administrative support is important. And how do you even manage the funds? you see. For some NGOs, the funding is pretty large. So how do you manage that? And so Terry has been doing this, taking all the effort and doing this wonderful work. And as Isabel talked about governance and leadership, so then next I come to Vibha, who has been, of course, she has broken the glass ceiling. Terry has been, I must admit, a place which has always been more conducive to women, I must say. And, you know, uh, and, and it's true, we have all thrived and, you know, done professionally well. And it's given you the kind of space. And Vibha today is the hem of Terry, and she has, you know, taken up the leadership role to guide Terry to what it is, you know, today. And Vibha, then may I ask you, how does, you know, as a leader, as somebody heading an institution, and SGP is one of very important, you know, SGP may seem small in terms of scale, but then, you know, drops make an ocean. You know, little drops make an ocean. So I think Terry, you know, behind the scenes is creating a huge impact. So, so how do you think that, what are the key knowledge tools or approaches, you know, how can Terry as an organization, because Terry not only does research, it also does outreach, you know, at grassroots level. So how can you transfer, you know, all this so that the implementing agencies can take the advantage of something which is being offered, you know, gratis and, you know, at whenever they want it. They have the access to it.
Well, really speaking, Nandita, you have said in your while introducing me that Terry has been an institution where women could thrive. And that is what, and if I look at Terry, there are so many things that we have learned, imbibed in this organization. And one is that believe in yourself, and that is what all women, my message to them is believe in your own capacity, that you can do it. There isn't anything that you can't do it. And that holds true to parents, more so, because they should believe in their girls. And they should treat both girls and boys equally. Now, coming to what knowledge Terry has gained in last 52 years and which is going under this program, is that hand-holding plays a very important role. First, you have to make them believe they can do it. And to do that, analyze where are the gaps. What is it they can't do? That can hold true right from when they write the project. Because sometimes they miss on very important components which are important for them. And with Terry's long experience, it is, we help them in evaluating what will be really beneficial for you. Sometimes they say, we don't have training. We can't do it. So teach them how they can do it. And then third is when we say we monitor all the time, it is not monitoring to find out what they don't have or to identify what they lack in. It is to identify gaps so that we don't say in the end we have failed. We evaluate them. It's like a class test that you do. It's not just the final exam. It is that you have unit tests as well, class tests as well. You identify and you help them to overcome wherever they need assistance. It is also like one of the questions which was discussed, that what will happen when we withdraw? So withdrawal should not be that they stop, or whatever level they are, they stop there. The withdrawal, or rather, it is our responsibility to ensure that that work never stops. And for that, you really have to encourage them. You have to bring the project to the level that it becomes self-sustaining financially. And others around you, it should be there should be replicable impact of that particular piece of work. Of course, nothing is perfect. I won't say every project the way we have thought in the beginning. That may not be the best way. There might be other ways, and we will learn it during this journey, walking with those communities together. And wherever there is need, we really have to also make midterm kind of corrections. Because it's not that you're working alone. There are market forces simultaneously acting. And it may be that the product you are trying to develop, it's already developed by someone. It may be the international market, the way it's acting today. You are looking at perhaps developing a product which can be exported, but then it cannot be exported. So you really have to look into every day where we are, how can we improve upon, and ensure that you are giving that skill set to all your partners so that they can do things better. So I'll stop here because that's what
Yes.
Terry's knowledge is and what we are trying to give to all our partners.
Thank you, Vibha. I think it's important. I think very often when we, attain a certain level of knowledge and understanding, we are also unwilling to sometimes share, you see, and become insecure. But I must admit that Terry has been very generous in sharing its knowledge, its capacity building skills, its competence, encouraging competence and skills among their partners and implementing agencies. And that is a very,
Well, Nandita, if I can just take one more minute.
Yes, please.
And that is for everyone. Whatever skill you have, please give it to others. Otherwise, you are hampering your own growth. You will never become indispensable and you'll keep on doing the same work. Teach others, move forward.
So more you share your knowledge, the better you get at it, you see. So next, our two actors we have here, Bhavani, Dr. Bhavani Rao and Kalpana Khare. And मैं थोड़ा इंग्लिश में भी बोलूँगी, so that कल्पना जी को थोड़ी, हाँ वो इंग्लिश, हाँ हिंदी में, इंग्लिश में, हाँ तो क्वेश्चंस और हाँ इनको समझ आ जाती है, जो समझ आ जाती है वो समझ लेंगी, तो बाद में anyway. So the main thing is you have the funding agency, you have a catalyst, a host agency, but who's doing the actual work? The impact is in the field, on the ground. So we have here, as I said, Kalpana ji and Dr. Rao, who's here, and they will share their experiences and about how they have gone about implementing and meeting the SDG goals and also taking the program forward. So Dr. Rao, Bhavani. So I don't know if you know that Bhavani is India's UNESCO chair on gender equality since the last 10 years. I also didn't know that. So please forgive me. But obviously, which means that she's quietly doing the work behind the scenes, but bringing in very powerful and impact in the field. She is an academic and a practitioner both. And Bhavani, since you represent both the academic research and you are also a practitioner, so how do you think, people talk of partnerships, Vibha was talking of partnerships, Isabel also talked, that everybody doesn't have the same skill sets or all the skill sets, so you have to draw on the others, you cannot do things on your own. So, so how do you think research and educational institutions, can work closely, with the communities and the implementing agencies to help them, either by giving technical support or research support to carry their goal forward or to meet their
Good afternoon, everyone. I think much of what has to be said has already been said. I mean, we had some amazing speakers and they kind of put everything. So what I'm going to try and do is to just pull from these speakers and kind of synthesize it from an academic perspective. So if you are from a university, how would you actually go about doing this? Because I think ma'am will also give her perspective from an NGO. So, and I'm going to draw on the speakers. So one of the, Isabel. Yes, Isabel. Isabel spoke about power dynamics and power flows. And I would just like to refer back to the title of the conference. It says Transformation Vision, Voices and Values. I mean, I think to a great extent, we need to rearrange the words over here and put values first. Because power dynamics without values can go really wrong, whether it's in the hands of men or women. Being very, very open over here. So, and the thing is, most often, when women drive power, these things, they have a value system behind because they're always they have a nurturing side, and this is inherent, and that's why you have good stories. But we can never forget this value perspective, so therefore I would say that we should come back to the value perspective. And our university, Amrita, has a strong value perspective written into our vision and mission. So it's compassion-driven research. So we don't just do research, we have to do research that actually benefits society and the environment. So it's hard-coded, and that basically creates a very nice segue for all the people within the Amrita system to actually work with the most disempowered communities and the most fragile of environments. And the second thing is I would like to draw on Vandana ma'am's, what Vandana ma'am said is about creating that space to encourage and empower people that are there. You share your skills, you share your knowledge, and I think ma'am also, Nandita ma'am also reflected on it. It is important, if you're talking about women in leadership, it's always a funnel, right? So you have a broad base, and then you funnel down onto leadership. You have to expand your funnel base. You have to get a lot more women coming in, so then you can see a lot more leader and a lot more leadership. And for that, you have to create safe spaces, and you have to create sisterhoods. You have to create groups of women who will encourage women to come forward to flourish. And what ma'am said is so right. Only a truly empowered person, man or woman, will be truly inclusive. And they don't mind smiling and sharing at the person who's at the bottom of the pyramid. There is no insecurity, there's only compassion, and there's only sharing. So this is another critical thing. So I'm just, like I said, I'm just drawing from the different speakers, I'm just putting it into the perspective of this thing. So at Amrita, we try to encourage the sisterhood. We have very strong women deans, a very strong network of women that we try to encourage. And taking this to the field, which you said, so we have a very interesting program called Live in Labs. It is mandated that everybody at the university, all students and faculty, spend time in rural areas, understand the problems, and co-design interventions. And this is mandated across the university. The reason we do that is that we believe there are two kinds of poverty. One is the poverty of lack of food, clothing, and shelter. And the second kind of poverty, which is a lack of love and compassion. I come back to compassion. If you address the second kind of poverty first, which is the lack of love and compassion, you automatically address the first kind of poverty, which is lack of food, clothing, and shelter. Because if you have compassion in your heart, you will serve those who don't have the basic necessities. So the program is designed to awaken that compassion in the hearts of our students and our faculty. And so this is again hard-coded into the system. Again, coming back again to the values, keep going back and forth. And the last thing that I would say is in working with the NGOs, and we are a university, but we have like kind of a hybrid role where we're also a part of a really large NGO, which is the MA MUT. And so we have that flavor of both being an academic institution, a research institution, and an implementing partner, all bottled into one. So in that sense, we are quite aware of the network paths between how they work. So a lot of understanding in research and research design, understanding ground realities. You cannot do good research without having a very strong connection between what is happening at the grassroots and your research design, because one doesn't see eye to eye with the other. And this is probably our greatest struggle. And because we are kind of self-contained in that, we actually try and strengthen those pathways. And one thing that I have learned from the G20, we were responsible for the Civil 20, and I was chairing the women and gender equality aspect of the Civil 20, the working group. And one of the things that we really realized is that the NGOs and people at the grassroots do not have ways to bring their learning up to all the way up to policies. Those conversations, there are no clear pathways. And it would be wonderful if you have the UN systems actually and organizations like Terry that facilitate those kind of conversations, so we can draw the lessons and bring those voices all the way up to policy. This is my
Thank you,
2
Bhavani.
bits.
Thank you so much, Bhavani. And as Bhavani said, it's not just the women, men also need to be empowered. So I think
Absolutely.
that Kalpana ji, so Kalpana ji has been able to do that. She's been able to motivate both men and women and empower them to avail of, you know, government schemes and funds available to push renewable energy program. So Kalpana ji leads an organization called Gramunnati Sansthan. It's based in Chhatarpur in Madhya Pradesh, and she was responsible for making access to government schemes, you know, possible for 150 households, so that they could avail of the benefits under the government schemes. Very often government schemes are, you know, there are many, and but who gets the benefit, sometimes it's very difficult to know, or how do you take the benefit, how do you access those, you know, is also a big challenge. But she's been able to do that. So Kalpana ji, I will, after the discussion is over, we'll open to deliberations, question and answer. So I will use a bit of English. तो कल्पना जी आप बताएंगे, आप तो लीडर हैं. So when we talk of bottoms up approach, you know, this is what Dr. Rao and Kalpana ji do. You know, while Isabel and Vibha are responsible for the top-down approach, so the bottom-up approach is the responsibility of Kalpana ji. Yes. And people like me, we monitor whether this is working on it. So, so कल्पना जी आप बताएं, क्योंकि आपने इतना बहुत किया, तो आप ये जो सरकार की प्रोग्राम थी, है ना, प्रधानमंत्री सौर घर स्कीम, हाँ, तो उसमें आपने जब ये कम्युनिटी या बेनिफिशियरी को ये जो लाभ दिलवाया आपने, हाँ, तो कैसी कैसी दिक्कतें आई? पहले तो मतलब दिक्कत तो आती है, वैसे भी आती है, पर आप बताएं, औरत होने के, एक महिला होने के, अगर कोई नर होते या जेंटलमैन होते तो उनको क्या कम होती वो दिक्कतें? आइए आप थोड़ा शेयर करेंगी.
थैंक यू नंदिता जी.
हाँ,
सबसे पहले तो नमस्कार साथियों, और मैं अपनी बात को हिंदी में रखूँगी. क्यों रखूँगी? इसके पीछे कारण है कि मैं जिनके साथ काम करती हूँ उनकी आवाज़ को उसी तरह आप सबके बीच में लाना चाहती हूँ. जैसे कि आप देख रहे हैं स्मॉल ग्रांट प्रोग्राम, इसका नाम स्मॉल है, ग्रांट छोटा है, पर प्रोग्राम बहुत बड़ा है, इसका फ़ायदा बहुत बड़ा है. तो इसको अलग अलग करके जब आप देखेंगे तो इसको स्मॉल ग्रांट प्रोग्राम नहीं कहेंगे, ये बिग प्रोग्राम है जिसने आज तक हमारे छोटे से प्रयासों से हम 150 महिलाओं के जीवन में बदलाव ला चुके हैं. महिलाओं के, उनकी फैमिली के जीवन में बदलाव ला चुके. देखिए, चैलेंज हर काम में होते हैं, चाहे हम कोई भी कार्य नया जब शुरू करते हैं, और वो काम शुरू करते हैं जिसमें महिला हेडेड हो, क्योंकि हमारा जो समाज है, हमारा जो सामाजिक व्यवस्था है, उसमें महिलाओं को दोयम दर्जे पर रखते हैं. और हमारे इस प्रोग्राम में महिला प्रथम स्थान पर थी, उसकी मंजूरी से ये सोलर लगना था. तो हमारा जो PM सूर्य घर योजना है, इसके अंतर्गत हमने ये पहल की. SGP प्रोग्राम के अंतर्गत हमने जब महिलाओं के साथ बातचीत शुरू की और महिलाओं को समझाना शुरू किया, देखिए इस प्रोग्राम के तहत सरकार की सब्सिडी है. सब्सिडी सिर्फ दे देने से कुछ नहीं होता है, ये हमारा और हमारे NGO का पूरा एक अनुभव है. जब तक आप उनके बारे में समझाएंगे नहीं, उनको ये कैसे मिलना है, इसके बीच में क्या क्या बाधाएं हैं, लोन्स लेना, बैंक जाना, डॉक्यूमेंट्स तैयार करना, और क्यों हम ये पैनल लगवाएं. 2 तरह से संस्था ने, NGO ने, हमारी ने काम किया. एक तो महिलाओं के साथ काम किया, और कैसे इस स्कीम के तहत उनकी पहुंच बने, उसके तहत भी हम लोगों ने बहुत प्रयास किए. चैलेंज आए, घर के पुरुषों से शुरू हुआ चैलेंज कि हमारे पास पहले से ही बहुत सारे लोन हैं, एग्रीकल्चर को लेके एक और बैंक का लोन हो जाएगा. पर महिलाओं ने जब सोच लिया तो उन्होंने, क्योंकि महिलाएं मैनेजमेंट और प्रबंधन बहुत अच्छे से करती हैं, आप सब जानते हैं, उन्होंने कहा कोई बात नहीं, हम इस लोन को इस तरह पूरा कर देंगे. और उन्होंने अपने पुरुषों को मोटिवेट किया. तो हमने उनको मोटिवेट किया, महिलाओं को मोटिवेट किया कि आप अपने परिवार में, अपने घर में पुरुषों को जितना अच्छे से समझा सकती हो, बाहर से आके हम उतना नहीं समझा सकते. हम आपके साथ हैं, जहां आप बात नहीं कर पाएंगे वहाँ हम आपके साथ हैं। बैंक में जाने के लिए हम साथ हैं, डॉक्यूमेंट्स तैयार करने के लिए हम साथ हैं। तो ऐसे चैलेंज आए, कोई बहुत बड़े ऐसे चैलेंज नहीं आए, पर जब तक शुरू नहीं हुआ था लगाना तब तक चैलेंज था। पर जब जैसे 10, 20, 50 महिलाओं ने अपने छत पे जो लगवाए और लोगों ने देखा कि इनके यहाँ क्या काम हो रहा है और इसके क्या फ़ायदे हैं, तो लोग अपने से कहने लगे। मतलब हमारे पास जो फंड है उससे भी ज़्यादा लोगों की मांग है। तो ये बहुत बड़ा अचीवमेंट है पीएम सूर्य घर योजना का और टेरी का, और ये जो एसजीपी है इसको तो हम बहुत बड़ा प्रोग्राम कहते हैं। चैलेंज के साथ साथ महिलाओं ने फायदे को भी दिखाया कि हम जो लाइट का बिल नहीं भर पाते हैं, हमारी लाइट कट जाती है, महीनों लाइट नहीं रहती है, क्योंकि लाइट ना रहने से लोगों को ज़्यादा फर्क नहीं पड़ता। घर के पुरुष अक्सर बाहर रहते, घर के बच्चे और महिलाओं पे बहुत असर पड़ता है, उन बच्चों की एजुकेशन पे बहुत असर पड़ता है। और अगर ज़्यादा बिल आ गया तो उन्होंने कहा अब बंद रहने दो लाइट को, अभी नहीं जुड़वाना है, कटी रहने दो। तो उससे फिर महिलाओं को भी दिक्कत आती, उनके हेल्थ पे प्रॉब्लम होती है, क्योंकि जैसे ही वो और चीज़ों से खाना बनाते हैं। हम आपको बताना चाहेंगे कि हम लोगों ने 78,000 पीएम सूर्य घर योजना की सब्सिडी थी, और संस्था की तरफ से उनको शुरू में मोटिवेट करने के लिए 30,000 का थोड़े सहयोग राशि संस्था की तरफ से इस एसजीपी प्रोग्राम के तहत रखा था, तो वो दिया, और बाकी का बैंक का था। और साथ में एक कुक स्टोव भी दिया, क्योंकि धीरे धीरे वो कुक स्टोव के माध्यम से घर में जो ईंधन है उसका प्रयोग कम से कम करें, क्योंकि महिलाएं पर्यावरण और सामाजिक जो व्यवस्था है उसमें बहुत आराम से बदलाव ला सकती हैं और उसका लाभ ले सकती हैं। तो ये हमारे लिए हमारा काम था। आप बताइए।
धन्यवाद कल्पना जी, आपने तो यू आर एन इंस्पिरेशन, ये हम कह सकते हैं। एंड आपने जो लीडरशिप जो दिखाई है, तो अगले पंचायत में आप
बिल्कुल
है या जिला परिषद या एमएलए।
हम एनजीओ काम इसलिए नहीं करते हैं कि वो इलेक्शन में जाएं। इलेक्शन में जो लोग गए हैं वो सही से काम करें।
हाँ, तो इसलिए हम आपको ऊपर
नहीं
इसके लिए भेज रहे, काम के लिए। देखिए आप जैसी महिलाओं की जरूरत है, क्योंकि हाँ वही, अगर
हम ही इलेक्शन में चले जाएंगे तो जो लोग इलेक्शन में गए हैं वो सही से काम कर रहे हैं, उनको कौन चेक करेगा?
इसलिए तो
उनके लिए हमें बाहर रहना पड़ेगा।
ठीक है, बढ़िया बढ़िया बढ़िया। थैंक यू वेरी मच। वी आर रनिंग शॉर्ट ऑफ टाइम। हाँ, थोड़ा जरूर मुझे माफ कीजिएगा। एंड no, we are having the questions, so apologies to the men. हाँ, हमने सोचा था पुरुषों को भी एक चांस देना चाहिए ना, औरतें सब डोमिनेट कर रही हैं आज, तो हमने सोचा पुरुषों को थोड़ा देंगे, पर लगता नहीं अभी होगा। आफ्टर द सेकंड पैनल, आफ्टर द सेशंस आर ओवर, we will do it together, please. Thank you so much.
Can I just say one element, because unfortunately, I understand Torah Hindi, but not fully. So I will, but I understand that although it's a small grant, it's not small. It is big. So that is. But I just wanted also, because I know you said it very quickly, but I still think I would like not to correct, but maybe to elaborate a bit more on UNDP's role or the UN's role and SGP, which is. Well, otherwise we would not be here together. It's not top-down, right? And I think that, also what you said is quite important, right? It is, and what I said at the beginning, right? If it would be top-down, we would not start understanding what are exactly the situation where we implement, right? I think that is the first thing, to understand these barriers, which you mentioned, and to understand the social norms. I think that is very important, and hence, it's more of a bridge builder or convener to what is done, what is implemented at a local level, and that's why there is partnership, right? We cannot do it alone. None of us can do it alone. We need to do it together. I think that is important. And well, I only understood elections, but I think it is also important that the actor, and in this case the woman actor or the local actor, actually man or woman, it's not just looking, understanding the outcome, right? It is really understanding the governance of it. So it is not just not just like I simplify it, we are planting 1,000 trees and say we have planted 1,000 trees, but understanding that the structure which decides and which everybody equally is part of, men or women, on all communities, representing of all the diversity, that the structure, that the capacity or the possibility to have this enabling environment of allowing everybody to come together in a committee, whatever decision making it is at the local level, and decide on where these trees are planted. I think this will make the difference, right? I think this is where we start on shifting the power relations and have long-lasting impact. I just wanted to add
thank
this
you very
point.
much,
Thank
Isabel.
you so much.
We hope your tenure in India gets extended by another 5 years if you are
I hope
due
so
for
too.
transfer. And Mr. Trump should not stop his, whatever. US should not stop its contribution to the UNDP fund. Thank you very much, all of you, for your attention. And
this was one of the wonderful sessions of WSDS.
oh, thank you.
Just have a minute. आप जाओ उधर. We extend our sincere gratitude to the moderator and the speakers for such an engaging and insightful dialogue. I would now like to invite Dr. Dipankar Saharia to present a token of appreciation to the panelists on behalf of TERI. Ms. Isabel Shan, Deputy Resident Representative, UNDP India. Dr. Bhavani Rao. Ms. Kalpana Khare. And for our moderator, Ms. Nandita Hazarika. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. Before we proceed, DG ma'am has requested me to inform you all that she had another engagement, and that's why she had to excuse herself. So thank you, everyone. If you can just...
Thank you, Shonika.
Thank you.
Your services as the MC, you've been good.
Thank you. Continuing with the women leadership, at the helm of the affair at the ministry level is Ms. Tanvi Garg, Joint Secretary and JEF Operational Focal Point for the Government of India. I would now like to request ma'am to please share her remarks for this session. Please join me in welcoming her. Ma'am, would you like to use the podium?
So, good evening, everyone. I'm Tanvi Garg, and I'm the Joint Secretary with the Ministry of Environment and Forest and the Operational Focal Point for JEF. I think before I say anything else, it was a pleasure listening to the previous panel, and especially Ms. Khare. I think आपने जो कहा कि छोटा नहीं है program, small grants program, it's very heartening to hear you. आपको सुन के बहुत अच्छा लगा, और in fact मेरे लिए बहुत important था ये आपसे सुनना. I would like to know more details of how you do it, what you do, and I've already asked my team to line up an interaction with you. My also special mention for Ms. Rao. Is she here? She was just here. Ji. It was again wonderful listening from your side how you put values at the center of everything. very important point you made as to how to make these voices reach the policy level, how to make this work reach the policy level, and I think a little bit we can come in there, ma'am, of course, with your guidance here. So I also look after this National Coastal Mission currently with the ministry, and while I was just listening to you, while I was reading about the small grants program, and while I was just wondering, about this aspect of what Ms. Rao said about, involving it in the policy. So it really got me thinking that here in the small grants program I came across, because I've just recently joined here, so I was just quickly skimming through the pages, which very, positively the coordinator from Terry had come and briefed me about Manish. Manish, are you here? Yeah, Manish. So the kind of zeal, the positivity, the energy they brought with them, and I was seriously compelled to think about what this SGP is, up to. And I did come across wonderful initiatives in coastal management. And there I was thinking that why not, scale it up, bring it into the mission. So how do we do that? And I'm really, open to working on this together with Terry. And I must say that it's a wonderful initiative, the whole event today, to recognize the efforts under the small grants program by the grassroots organizations like the one that Ms. Khare represents. And I would really like to interact and engage further and know how we work together and to bring it up at the national level, at the policy level. One small idea which I would like to just share is maybe a compendium that perhaps we are already working on. So with our, I think we are launching one today. But what I was being told about was another case study specific in terms of the areas we work in, especially the blue economy, because I'm coming from the perspective of a mission here. So what I'm trying to say is that while we do that, we are going to have stakeholder consultations with the states and UTs, and I think it will be a wonderful opportunity to share what's being already done and achieved under the small grants program. It's also about knowledge sharing. It's also about, education, awareness. And a lot of work, I feel, that is individually happening through a lot of initiatives. I also recently attended, in the capacity of Jeff OFP, one of the discussions by FAO under the Ministry of Agriculture. And there I would say there's a lot of opportunity for convergence. The work that we are doing here, the work that is being done under FAO's program that they're doing for agricultural systems, food systems, and so I'm thinking that this kind of forum gives us opportunity to recognize the good work that is being done, and also inspires us to take that work forward, scale it up more. So with these words, I think I just like to wish the very best to the initiative of the small grants program and all the work that Terry has been undertaking on our behalf. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am, for those encouraging words. Next, we will proceed on to the section for the SGP awards. I'm sorry. Okay. So next, we will proceed on to the section for awards. The first set, and I would request Tanvi Garg ma'am and Leena Nandan ma'am to please present the awards. The first set of awards, I'm sorry, just give us a second. The first set of awards is in the category The Best Innovator. Ideas on green practices both in product and process cycle of the project. I would first request Leena Nandan ma'am to please do the honors. So we have the categories region-wise. So we have one winner from each region. The first awardee is from the Indian coastal region, which is Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham. So Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham presents a scalable, women-led seaweed initiative that strengthens livelihoods while promoting biodiversity conservation and climate resilience. By integrating seaweed into familiar foods and using data-driven monitoring, the model ensures sustainable impact and strong potential for replication across the coastal communities. I would request Bhavani ma'am to please come and collect the award. The next award is for Saura Mandla Foundation, which showcases a transformative clean energy model that integrates technology, finance, and women-led enterprises to develop and build resilient low-carbon rural livelihoods. And from the central semi-arid region, we have Gram Unnati Sansthan. The organization is recognized for pioneering a community-driven model that transitions remote households from biomass to solar power cooking while building local technical capacity. I would request Kalpana ji to please come and collect the award. Thank you, ma'am. Can I please request Ms. Isabel to present the next set of awards? The next award category is Indigenous Knowledge Practitioner, incorporation of traditional local knowledge in the project, which reduces the ecological footprint in the project cycle. For the first award, we have BIF Development Research Foundation from the Indian Coastal Region. BIF is recognized for revitalizing the traditional moody grain storage practice, a chemical-free and climate-resilient method developed by Konkan farming communities to protect seeds and ensure long-term food security. Next, we have from the Northeast region, SESTA, who is recognized for advancing natural farming through community-led training and promotion of organic inputs that improve soil health and reduce production costs. From the central semi-arid region, we have Arunoday Sansthan, who is recognized for revitalizing indigenous natural farming practices that enhance soil health and strengthen climate resilience across Bundelkhand. Thank you. Ms. Isabel, I'd request you to please stay. We'll launch a compendium of case studies from the SGP projects, for which I would also like to invite our panelists and our senior director and our national coordinator on the stage. Ashish sir, ma'am. Nambi sir, Rathore sir, please. Bhavani ma'am, Kalpana ji, Nandita ma'am, please. Nabeen sir, please. Can I also request Subroto sir to please? Moving forward, I would like to call upon the National Coordinator for Small Grants Program, Mr. Manish Kumar Pandey, to present an overview of the innovative practices under the SGP Operational Phase 7. This presentation will provide a vital context for our next panel discussion on creating institutional mechanisms.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you everyone for joining this session. I am going to present some of the innovations that we have tried to incorporate since the beginning of this project, both at the programmatic level and also at the implementation level. So at the programmatic level, we have introduced from the beginning that how this landscape approach assessment that we undertake. First we have done is that following the international practice of community development and knowledge management for the Satoyama initiative COMDEC approach, and we have used the toolkit socio-ecological production landscape and seascape toolkit that was used to assess the actual requirement of the project at the ground level with the NGO partners and with the stakeholders, so that we understand what is needed at the ground level. We have taken also one very important innovation that we have done is that establishment of multi-stakeholder platform in each districts, where the district collector is the chair and the different department heads are also part of this committee, and we also have NGO and experts. This multi-stakeholder platform ensure that there is a convergence at the district level and there is no duplication of the work. We have also taken this for sustaining some of the activities that we are going to undertake as a pilot in these districts. We have effective engagement of the local stakeholders like government bodies. Then we have panchayats, JFMC, BMCs, FPOs, SSGs, etc., who have been part of this project with our NGO partners. We have introduced the online monitoring system, which provides the real-time data in terms of that indicator wise, what is our achievement, where are we lagging, what kind of action that we need to take. It helps us to monitor and guide the NGOs properly. So it is one of the innovations that we have introduced at the programmatic level. We have created a knowledge portal, online knowledge portal, where all the innovative practices being done by our NGOs are actually recorded and uploaded, and all of the NGOs are able to access the learnings and take it to their own landscapes. Somebody is doing something innovative in Indian coastal region, and that practices that some NGO finds it in the northeastern region, they can see through that toolkit and implement some of it. So these are some of the innovation at the programmatic level. I have just put down at the implementation level 2-3 innovative projects that we are doing. One is that we just mentioned that women-led enterprise for processing seaweed that is being done by Amrita. You have already heard about this. Then we have again in Indian coastal region QR coded saplings, where this nursery is using, so that people are getting aware that some of these improving the biodiversity of that landscape, what is the origin of it, what is the benefit of it. So everything, that information that local people can take from that QR coded saplings. Then third, we have ghost gear upcycling that is being done by MS Swaminathan Foundations. So reducing the plastic waste in the marine and using it for creating livelihood opportunity for women fishermen community in that area. Second, we have in the central semi-arid region solar-based incubators and brooders, where the women beneficiary, again tribal women beneficiaries, have been able to benefit from this solar incubator brooders, and their incomes have actually increased multifold. Second thing that we have also done is that in the solar fencing, we have upscaling grants where we are doing the solar fencing, and that has created a complete market change in the Chhatarpur districts. The cost of solar fencing used to be 15,000, 20,000 for the farmers. Now, because of our intervention, the cost has come down to 3,000 to 5,000 for the farmers. So it has completely changed the market dynamics. Third, we have this Pradhan Mantri Saur Ghar Yojana, where we have just, you heard our partner Gramonati, that they have done a very innovative work in Chhatarpur districts. In the third region, we have northeastern region. There is a vertical composting that have been introduced by the Bethany Society. It is a flexible organic waste solution. In that, this is also a very innovative project. Second, you heard about the Saura Mandala Foundation, that they are trying to improve energy efficiency for the micro entrepreneurs. And third, we have the NESFAS, that they are doing the wild edibles in midday meals of government schools. So these are some of the innovations at the program, at the implementation level. Now I'll leave it to Dr. Ashish to continue that discussion. This is just a beginning. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks. Thanks so much. It's been a sort of a deep dive into SGP, so to say, and I'm delighted that the room's still full. So there's great amount of interest in this small, big program that we have created here. So thanks so much for your interest. In the interest of time, and given the fact that Tanvi ji has to leave, and she's already started answering the question that I had for her in mind, and of course, then I'll come back to other panelists. I think, Tanvi ji, you just mentioned that you've seen some of these case studies, and this session is essentially about pilots to policy. How do we create institutional mechanisms for replicating, upscaling, mainstreaming SGP's initiatives? And the panelists who are here need no introduction, I would say. I have the pleasure of working with all of them in the past. So I'm delighted that they're all here. But Tanvi ji, given the sort of the brief insights that you've received from the pilots that have happened, what are the entry points for policy sort of mainstreaming? And what kind of replication models can be established for these pilots? I think if you can give a couple of examples. I think you started with the National Coastal Mission already, but I'm sure you have many other, and not only from your current role, but also from your past experience.
Yeah, thank you, Ashish. And I think, although as you said, I started answering the question that you have put to me. My apologies for rushing the panel, because I am supposed to go for a meeting and have to leave quickly. But very briefly, you're right. I mean, we have to have entry points for all the initiatives. I mean, the collective learnings that we have from these kind of initiatives. So one thing that immediately comes to my mind is like, let me give an example of Andaman Nicobar Islands. I was there way back in 2014 to 2017. And the work that is being done in terms of artificial coral reef restoration, the removal of the ghost nests. And I've seen the bleached corals, and it's a concept till you actually see them. And when you actually realize that, the once, green corals, live corals are dead, and you are there to see them again, and you just are devastated by that sight. And I think these initiatives, when you put them to the local governments there, the gram panchayats, the work that can be done, and the way the local communities can participate in this kind of work, I think that is a starting point when we are talking at the local level. Now at a more central level, maybe at the states, at the level of the UTs and all, again, these programs that are being undertaken. As I just said, and this compendium, of course, it's the right way, but at various knowledge forums, I think the digital platform that Manish mentioned, it also needs propagation. So it's not that the state governments are not wanting to take up such works. There's often a lot of information asymmetry. And I think here the role of agencies like TERI and UNDP and others come in, because when we are talking about the state action plan on climate change, I mean, states and UTs have been asked to revise them, bring in line with the national action plan. So while this revision is happening, while activities are being identified, these kind of case studies really can influence the policymakers, the decision makers in the states. At the national level, of course, at the cost of repetition, as I said, in the various programs, I mean, if we were to approach the initiatives and the learnings in terms of case studies, sector specifically, then at the ministries level, not just the Ministry of Environment and Forest, but the other specific areas, we can approach the concerned ministries. In fact, I remember having this thought when Manish was briefing me the first time about the work that's been done. So I said, why don't you compile what we can do together in education, what we can do together, you know, in environment, of course, you're telling me, fisheries, tell me more about seaweeds. So, you know, all that. So that's a work in progress. So I think it's not just top down, bottom up. I think all together we should work together collectively, and I think we are getting there. Yeah.
Thanks so much. Yeah, so I think the insights that you're providing, of course, the SAP-CC work, a lot of sort of people here in this room have worked for decades. When the SAP-CCs began in 2010, and then they were built up, I think Nambi was also involved in that work. And of course, the evidence which SGP is producing, the insights that SGP is producing can actually be sort of leading to programs at the subnational, beginning at the panchayat level, but then being scaled up at the state level and also at the national level. So thank you very much. And yes, thanks very much. Okay, so we'll continue. I think what I want to do is frame this a little broadly, because now we have Leena Nandan ma'am, who's been sort of at the helm of the Ministry of Environment, Forests and Climate Change. That was her past role, but now as a distinguished fellow at TERI. And also BMS, if I may call him like that, who was at the Ministry of Environment as well, and also the CCD focal point, but has done incredible work at this grassroots level in Harda, which is sort of very well documented, and Nambi, who's been working in Tamil Nadu tirelessly, but also in several programs at the policy level, and Naveenji, who's now joining us from NABARD, which has been sort of the accredited entity for a lot of vertical fund programs, but also the work on climate finance, which NABARD is trying to set up. So I think over the last 3 decades, SGP has been kind of creating these models. And I think part of the challenge has been that a lot of pilots have just remained pilots. That is also a reality. And so I think this, given that we have just finished, or we are in the process of finishing the operational phase 7, and we are launching operational phase 8 this year, I think it's also about sort of designing, and I think this, while we were designing operational phase 8, a very clear sort of articulation of institutionalization. How do we select pilots that have the potential to scale, to get institutionalized, to get replicated, is something which is very important, given the fact that, okay, we've had so many, so this is the 8th cycle, and in the 7th cycle itself, we created 70 such examples. So ma'am, if I could start with you, Leena ji, what approaches do you think would support mainstreaming of these bottom-up, community-level initiatives? I think this was a point which sort of the previous panel also looked at from a gender, sort of a women-led perspective. But I think that's sort of, well, that is a very critical perspective to kind of also look at long-term sustainability. But in your sort of experience of nearly 40 years in the government of India, where do you think these bottom-up and community-led initiatives can actually contribute to the larger frameworks at the national and global level as well?
I think we all can agree that pilots remaining at the stage of pilots and just good proof of concept is not going to get them beyond the first point. So therefore, how do we institutionalize it? One aspect, of course, will be in government schemes and guidelines. So for instance, if we are talking about seaweed and how products of seaweed are being very good project that has been done and has been awarded also. So how can these products be brought into the commercial mainstream? There will be 2 aspects to it. One will be, of course, the bankability. And I'm glad we have NABARD here, because ultimately everything boils down into the bankability of projects. A good research project, some innovation will only remain at that level until a good project proponent can get the funds to actually do that on a long-term basis, and until the guidelines. For instance, we saw in the presentation that Manish had made, there are so many different models that have come up. And I do remember reading up the brief that he had sent me. There are solar chilling plants that have been, part of the good models that have been developed. Solar cold storage solutions. Now it sounds counterintuitive, solar and also cold storage. But it has happened, it is there. We are also seeing in this campus, in this summit, there is a Him Connect exhibition, which has some excellent research models that have been thrown up. So until we are able to bring them into the bankable stage by developing the kind of guidelines that make them possible for commercial implementation, or as Terry and UNDP can work together to take them up with the state governments and with the relevant ministries to embed them in their guidelines, they will not really get institutionalized. So that is the biggest challenge that we have. And the third thing that I would like to say is that the ownership of the community, so good successful models, how can they be taken up to the community level? So through the Panchayati Raj systems, through the farmer FPOs that we have, these good models should be translated into the vernaculars and disseminated through the different organizations that we already have. Very functional, very effective, but let's not treat them all in silos. Let's try to bring this knowledge and information to that level so that farmers themselves can get motivated. Nothing succeeds like a successful model, and that success is what we need to bring to the larger community, to groups of cooperatives and collectives and organizations.
Sure. No, ma'am, I think this example of the seaweed, I think we are also working very closely with the state government of Odisha as a part of the GCF Coastal Project, which is anchored in the Ministry of Environment, where several women, fisher women, have actually taken up seaweed farming already. And we are also in discussion with the regional office of NABARD to see how the evidence and the unit costs can actually turn that into a programmatic intervention in NABARD. So I think those kinds of pathways already exist. So if I may, if I could turn to BMS next. So you've, of course, had a great amount of experience working in the forest departments around the country, also at the national level. So what institutional pathways could be explored to strengthen collaboration with forest departments in supporting and scaling community-led initiatives? And I think there have been many examples in the past as well. But what are those pathways, and where do you think SGP-like innovations, given the fact that you're also part of the regional advisory group in Madhya Pradesh and in the central region, where do you see those entry points for SGP-like interventions as well?
Thank you, Ashish. I think we need to look at the landscape governance issue as we look at the institutional spaces. And because most of the things we talk about is the landscape approach. And how the landscape approach is different from any conventional approach which we have been doing it all through. Because landscape approach is more, bringing the ecosystems together. You're not dealing only with the forest, because the drivers of degradation of the forest land is also somewhere else. It could be livestock, it could be people collecting firewood, it could be encroachments, it could be anything. Similarly, agriculture, when you look at the agro-ecosystems, you're looking at how am I losing my soil? Where is the water coming? Because water has become a major issue. And for water, you need to have a secured catchments. So you need, so landscape approach, as you really try to translate into practice, so what does it mean? To me, I think having gone through many of these projects and some very inspiring stories, one missing link I find is these different subsystems, they do not talk to each other. So if somebody is getting into through agriculture, they're just embedded in agriculture. They're looking at agriculture, how the agriculture does. They will improve the agronomic practices. They will restoration of land through ponds, and all those things will happen. Soil and moisture conservation, and then crop rotations, mixed cropping, means composting. Well, I look at how does it actually link to the other land use, which is adjoining. An adjoining area in many of the central Indian landscape actually is a forest area. Now, this is the complexity of the landscape approach, but if we do not do it, and what does it really mean? As you deal with multiple land uses and multiple ecosystems, you also deal with multiple stakeholdership. And getting the multiple stakeholders on a common platform is one of the key essence of the landscape approach. And I think they have done some good groundbreaking on this, but I think still we have a long way to go. To me, it looks like when a micro plan is done at the local level for village, because most of the projects have done a village level plan. Village level plan, does it deal with these different ecosystems? And what are the linkages? Like two linkages. One is hydrological linkages, because water is a key issue. Other is ecological linkages. You're also talking about the restoring the agricultural lands which are degraded, and you're using all the practices which are more ecologically sustainable. Same thing on the forest area. Same thing with the livestock. If you look at this Jal, Jangal, Jameen, and Janwar also, if you look at how you're looking at the livestock. So I think this part, how this approach embedded in a micro plan, and for that you need to train the capacity building of the community youths and the CBOs and the frontline staff of different departments. Then your micro plan actually becomes a truly integral part of a larger landscape plan. And that will start informing the GPDP. Now you're coming to your position.
Yes.
So this micro plan, which is done through your intervention, should inform other local level plans, particularly Gram Sabha plan, which is GPDP plan. Forest department ka plan hai, it must also inform their plan. Any other plan, what should they're trying to put their plan? So the first level is start at the local level. Then you move up. District level committees you set up normally for this. My take is very simple. आप जिला में कितना भी committee बना लीजिए, because it's a tail cannot wag a dog. So we come with a small money, so at a small grant. Madam, आपने कहा बड़ा program जरूर है, लेकिन still, so government will look at, how much money you have bought it? They will set up a committee because you have asked them to put up a committee, but committee that does not really give you much leverage. आपका काम यह है कि you take the battle in their half. मतलब उनके जो existing committees हैं, like district planning committee, existing institutions जो आपका district level के है, take this voice must be heard there. आपका presentation, आपके जो champions हैं, आप उसमें space बनाइए अपना. Through whatever letters and whatever lobbying has to be done, do that. Same thing happens for the state level. So I think landscape grammar and vocabulary has to be mainstreamed in the existing institutions and platforms. That is the way to go about it. Thank you much.
Thank you. No, brilliant. No, I think great insight, because this is something that we've discussed a lot in the project team with Terry, because there is a lot of work that we are doing in one landscape. There are several projects which are currently active in this landscapes. How do they speak to each other? How do they engage with each other? How do we bring a collective sort of identity to the landscape approach, and then feed into different existing structures? So of course, the GPDP we have actually managed to do fairly well. In this, we've actually gone to that level already, where several GPDPs in the entire landscapes we've managed. But how does that translate into the work at the district planning committee? I think this is where, of course, a lot of district planning committees themselves are quite dysfunctional. But in the states, in the districts that we are working in, where because we have the eyes and ears of the district collectors already, and we have enough sort of evidence to suggest to them, and also people like sort of the NGOs that are already active, working very closely. But I think it's a really important thing to take up as we go to the next step in OB8, where we'll have to kind of really focus and drill down on this entire policy linkage piece bottom up, rather than trying to sort of look at this sort of in more sort of disjointed ways. Let me come to Nambi. Nambi, you've of course been working on the state adaptation planning processes for well over a decade. And also you've been involved in the negotiations at the global level on adaptation, but also on the national adaptation plan, you've had some insights. So given sort of whatever evidence you've seen, and given the fact that you're also part of the advisory committee for the southern region, what ways can SGP contribute to the adaptation side? And of course, both the NAP, the National Adaptation Plan, which is currently sort of almost finalized, and the NBSAP, the National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan, which is already finalized. And of course, India also has a desertification strategy, because these are the three conventions that this SGP OP8 kind of responds to. So what would be your sort of response to that?
Thank you, Ashish. all wise words have been said already. So let me just take a crack at it in the sense that I think these are some of the best practices which are evolving, right? Whatever she talked about. I had a privilege of going with the Amrita people, spent a day with them in the sea to see what happens. Now, absolutely phenomenal work. In fact, in the Tamil Nadu Climate Summit recently held, I mentioned this particular intervention. Absolutely. This is a way to kind of, it has to be documented effectively. To me, it boils down to communication. Absolutely. The way you sort of, package that in a way that policymaker can relate to or the bureaucrat can relate to. Many of the times, it gets buried in this kind of, stuff. So it's important to sort of highlight that and if possible, take them and demonstrate. Seeing is believing in many ways, sort of, that's important. Not all bureaucrats are free to sort of, but then it's important to clearly send the message. So I think there is a dearth of sort of, even in the UNFCCC kind of case studies we look at, number of case studies going from India is very less, given the size of the country, certainly. That makes a huge difference in terms of, the world knowing this practices, as well as, it's mutual learning. It's not that a lot of practices go from India as well, and we also learn from others. So I think this is one important thing. And secondly, I think, as Madam mentioned, the bankability is important. Whatever you talk about good adaptation, again, climate information carries the weight because today's adaptation becomes maladaptation. How do you sort of factor this is also important. So that when you look at the project as externally, it's important to sort of, not that you can depend on the NGOs and people working on the ground to sort of think about it. So that is where the expert's role plays. It's important to sort of bring that adaptation science to it. That's not much of work has been done in that, in that direction. So it's important to sort of, guide the process where science-guided stuff. And certainly, there is also, when you talk about adaptation, a sense of history is also important. It's not completely devoid of the culture. It's important to sort of respect that and integrate that. So that is where the traditional knowledge and the modern science comes to sort of, play an important role together. I think these are some of the factors that counts. And in terms of scaling, and as mentioned, as Madam mentioned, it is also important to see, even when we start the project, we should sort of enumerate the sort of policies and schemes so that you have a better understanding, because government also can't take all the burden of funding these things. So it's important to sort of piggyback on the existing schemes and policies. And adaptation plans work better that way. I've seen that model in Tamil Nadu. For example, even Amrita's model, why I mentioned that in that context is Tamil Nadu has now a tea and shore project, which has been funded by the World Bank, which started as a small sort of a thing, and now it is really scaled up immensely. So it's important, these kind of models should really feed into that process. That's very important. Who does the job? That's another question. That is where I think Terry's role and UNDP's role is very important, and experts' role is very important. Sort of guide that. They can, and again, I've been banking too much on the project because that's impressed me like anything. Absolutely, the way they've organized that, and one of the small things that's where the academic role is also important. One of the small things, the limitations what they had is the women are complaining about going to the sea, doing the cultivation, but then they're bitten by the jellyfish. So it's a huge menace. So immediately they could connect to the CFMR, that is what it's called. Central Fisheries and Marine Research Institute, CFMRI. So they had some sort of disinfectant, something they had, which they had for something else, some other fish or something. They tried it out and it worked. So these are the sort of solutions which keeps the adaptation going. And it is also part of adaptation process. I think there is one thing at the ground level they could do, but it is important that how the external expertise play a role in this. I think I'll stop here. This is some of the important lessons. What to me it's really very enlightening. There are few other projects also I saw, and again the landscape approach you cannot ignore. It's sort of when we talk about it, that is where the huge gap is also there in Ramanathapuram, because there are several activities in the coastal resilience activities are going on, be it sand dunes or regeneration of coral reefs. There's so many activities. How do you sort of deliver as one? That becomes important when you talk about climate resilience.
Thanks, Nambi. I think there are several such examples. I think with our collaboration with the Ministry of Environment, there are many examples where SAPCCs have been informed by the initiatives which have taken place at the community level. So the latest economic survey of Odisha actually has an entire case study on the coastal project, ma'am. which was done in Odisha, and it has been scaled up. And the story that Isabel was talking about of climate champions features prominently in the economic survey of Odisha already. So let me turn to the final panelists, and I'll then open it up because the audience is still here, and I want to take questions as well. So please ready your questions. So Naveen ji, you're from NABARD. NABARD has, of course, a long history of working with sort of communities, also NGOs in the watershed program over several decades. So you've seen some of the examples of our work under SGP. So what do you think are the insights that ma'am also already started by talking about bankability of some of these initiatives? But how can we attract more finance, either domestic or international finance, to community initiatives? What evidence requirements do you have to actually say that this is ready for me to now take it to the next level or to actually launch a program?
So, good evening, fellow panelists, Ashish and the audience here. NABARD, as he has been told, that we have been into development, investments, and various cycles of understanding the nuances of this ecosystem. And over the years, we have tried many things, prototyping, demonstration units, setting up various women-led enterprise, supporting them. I think Madam talked and Sir also has on this dais itself, whether it is farmer-producer organizations, whether it is women-led enterprises, whether it is natural resource management, whether it is cooperatives, every space NABARD is there. We are the developmental financial institution, and we proudly say that we have been able to understand a lot of things, tweaked a few of our existing schemes as per the requirement. And over the years now, we are the only single accredited agency at one point of time to tap Adaptation Fund or GCF. Now there are a couple of them more. We have also, with Ministry of Environment, done this projects as the national implementing entity for a lot of our NAFCC projects across India. Some of, in terms of sustainability, in terms of whether you talk about him stupas of Ladakh to Rameshwaram, right to Dimapur, to Arunachal Pradesh, to Gujarat coast, across India, there are examples where NABARD has been there. And I am remembering those days of my posting as a district officer in Bhagalpur, in Bihar. Bhagalpur is known for its Tasar silk. So there, the women, the weavers mostly are from the Muslim community. But the women would not come out, though a lot of work was being done by them. And there, after initial discussions, we came to know that during the daytime, it is impossible to get the women out. One. And secondly, anything is to be done, it has to be done at their courtyard, in their place. Electricity was a problem there. Then we got in collab with Terry, and then we set up these solar-powered lighting system, which was managed by communities. एक स्वयं सहायता समूह जो वीवर्स की थी, उन्होंने उसको मैनेज किया, और वहाँ पे पूरे दिन वो plug and play model था. Those days plug and play. Now a definite connotation is there of plug and play. Those were plug and play. You plug your solar lantern, and in the evening you take it out for your work. So at home, your child also reads during the evenings. The ladies can do some of these, reeling of the yarn, so that next day their looms are not in a position where they cannot weave something. So from those years, and this is not, what I am speaking is not from medieval India. It is about, say, I was there in Bhagalpur 2006 to 12. So during that time, this is an experience there. And subsequently, we worked with Pradhan. There is a district next to my Bhagalpur district called Baka. It's a hilly terrain where we worked on watershed and tribal development project. There also, under the SGSY, गवर्नमेंट का SGSY प्रोजेक्ट था, उसके अंतर महिलाओं के लिए एक कॉमन वर्किंग प्लेस बनाया गया था, so that the women could come in the evening after finishing their household chores and do some work here for gainful engagements, where they'll earn their reeling centers, which Pradhan will set up. Pradhan is known for, if some of you are there, I have Sesta here, Kalang Kopeli here. They have been working with NABARD in Assam and elsewhere. I think Kalang Kopeli also works in Arunachal with NABARD on tribal development projects. So what happened there was culmination of ideas and course correction during the learning process.
Sure.
So that still holds true, whether it is coral reefs or other set of things that we now feel for fishery, women linked to fisheries, or now NABARD is working on IoT and AI based. And there also I am happy to share with you, in parts of India, a lot of people, women especially, are getting trained to look at these smart meters and get it going all the way. We have set up in Darang, in Assam. I think there was a panelist here who came up with, Madam, okay, she was quoting from Assam. I also have a lot of stories from Assam because I worked as a general manager of the state from NABARD 3 years in Assam. So in Darang is just next to, about 100 kilometers from Guwahati, the capital city of Assam. There we put up these weather stations which were solar powered and smart meter. So my plantation there of guava or mango, smart meter will tell when it is time to open the drip irrigation to that. So there are many examples. I know sir is looking at me to stop.
No.
But yes, I honor time of everyone. So policy-wise and finance-wise, madam has next to me, she'll say you're a bad neighbor. So finance-wise, NABARD is now having a NABARD Green Lending Facility. We are in tune with a lot of international multilateral development agencies and channelizing money from there to the areas that are in focus with government. Madam is now in TEDI, but I was thinking that when Tanvi madam was there, I could say state action plan on climate change. We are very closely associating with that. But not many of states have done much to their state action plan. Whether it is 1.0, 2.0, the story would, whether we say that you attune yourself with the national climate plan, but not much of traction takes place there. But NABARD is seriously working on it. We are pushing state governments ki you get to that. So that is one thing I would like to leave this forum with, the thought that if you have a prototype, if you have a model that is doable, यदि हमारे किसी भी संस्था के पास है, किसी भी कम्युनिटी के पास है, तो हम उसको मोल्ड करके किसी भी प्रकार, चाहे वो बैंक के ग्रीन फाइनेंसिंग से हो, नाबार्ड के ग्रीन लेंडिंग फैसिलिटी से हो, फंड्स शुड नॉट बी अ प्रॉब्लम गोइंग फॉरवर्ड. थैंक यू.
Thanks so much. Yeah, thanks a lot. So we can take a couple of questions, including for the previous panel, 2 questions. Okay, so I see a hand here and a hand there. I think I'm sorry, we'll take 2 questions. Yes, so the gentleman. Yeah, exactly. We'll ask 2 questions and then
I work currently as an independent consultant in the domain of local governance, climate change, Thank you so much, and I think this is the best session where at least panchayats and GPDP have been referred to. And I would just like to refer to certain national advisories. There was a joint advisories which was issued by 26 ministries and departments way back in 2022 for the localization of SDGs. So there have been 9 thematic areas. So thematic area 1, 4, 5 and 9, that is woman-friendly panchayats and all. So I think that's, I mean, while this operational 8 thing is being discussed, I think that's a very relevant point, sir, as you have mentioned, that the GPDPs can be mainstream. The other practical issue at the Gram Panchayat level is we should all accept the fact that, you know, in most of the states, Gram Panchayat are very poorly staffed. So there is one secretary, or maybe, you know, in certain states, there even, so even if we can think about providing skilled resources at the Gram Panchayat level to help them plan for natural resource governance and environmental protection, I think that could be another strategy. NBT 22 and 23, that also talks about, under the NBSAP, that also talks about capacity building of panchayats and other CBOs in the umbrella. So these 3, I think, can be very potential areas.
Thank you so much. And then the lady there, can someone give a microphone at the back, please? Yes, ma'am. Please introduce yourself and direct a question if you can. Yes.
My name is Naina Khatri, and I'm a PhD scholar at Jawaharlal Nehru University, and my topic is refugee women and the work of UNHCR. So my question is that I heard a lot about the challenges as a woman and as a citizen of India, right? And being a woman, we have lots of documentations and so much facilities, and we have a social and conventional structure also to tackle lots of problems, right? But I was wondering, when we think about the refugee women, they don't have social structures they used to have in their own country, origin country, and they don't have sufficient documentations also, so they have lots of challenges. So I want to know that if we link SDGs, their development goals, with the problems of refugee women, so where India stand, what is the stance of India? Like when we talk about Jordan and Uganda, and there are lots of countries who are, directly and indirectly implementing SDGs for refugees, for developing their problems for their lives. So where is India stands? I just want to know. I'm just wondering that.
Thanks. Thanks so much. I'm not sure which panelists to direct this question to, but what I would ask my panelists to do is to maybe sort of take 20 seconds or 30 seconds to respond to, or if you have any suggestions for the the questions or the suggestions that have been raised. So maybe Leena ma'am and BMS, if you could respond to this entire directive. I think it's a great idea. The 2022 directive about SDG localization, a lot of us know about this. And then I think what can be done as a part of SGP.
So on the localization, I think the point that already most of our panelists have made, that let's not reinvent the wheel for everything that we do. There are already structures at different levels, right down from the district to the panchayats, to farmer organizations, SHGs. So if those existing systems can be tapped for, in the sense of orienting them and sensitizing them, making them aware of good models, and similarly, the banking structure also takes it upon itself to take these good models and good practices into larger advocacy within the financing system. So train and sensitize the officers who actually appraise projects and sanction them. Then that is how the bankability will be ensured. Or in the case of there is no issue being made that everything is connected with finance, but a lot of it is about information. So the existing structures that are there at field level, maximize information to them rather than be actually constantly barraging a barrage of information going in multiple manners, which is not even condensed to be understood and distilled. So probably the simplicity of the messaging and the content, so that the effectiveness of the message and the communication is there. And in terms of if there are tweaks in the program and schematic guidelines, then that has to be taken up with the relevant department or ministry of the state or center. So I think we need to have more coherence in the way we are distilling this information, analyzing it, and then passing it down. Let's not think that our work is done simply because we write letters to all and sundry.
Yes. Thanks very much. Yes, ma'am. Yes, BMS.
No, on the localization of the SDG, I happen to be in Tripura visiting a panchayat office. So what they have done is they have these 9 SDGs, so 9 dimensions. And I think now Niti Aayog is also pushing this. So they have a very interesting system of scoring now against 9 dimensions. So I think the panchayats knows that where do they stand on each of these dimensions. So I think sometimes many of these processes and systems can actually help them to also see where they need to improve. Yes. So this could be one way to look at your house. Just 2 points I want to add, lest I forget this. One is, as you move on to the next, this SDG, what do you call that? SGP OP8. Yeah, sometimes tongue twisting. 2 things I really want to bring the lessons from OP7. One is when you say land, the degraded land restored. So, but the problem is that you have only 4-year cycle of the SGP. Yes. And by the time you start the work, it's 1 year already gone. So you effectively, our partners are left with only 2.5 to 3 years. When you say land restored, because you need a long-term monitoring to even say that. Like if you want to say agricultural land, you look at the microbial diversity and you catch that. You some proxy indicators like humus, this you can easily, but there is a lot more to go. So what I want to suggest is, out of the OP8, put some money for looking back. Just to monitor, because 2 years, And the second thing I want to bring in, there are many projects, wonderful, inspiring stories. They also need little upscaling, hand-holding. And I think all the linkages, madam, you said and talked about, they have all potential, but still I think they will need some more support. Last point, Ashish just give me this time, is what we found missing because Central Indian landscape, I'll say, we need a resource organization, because largely we are dealing with the CBOs back in the districts. We need one resource organization which in a state which you can select by a very appropriate methodology, which can actually do holding, because there is a limitation every now and then. Terry, you're doing a wonderful job, but still I think you also have a limitation of the time. So if we can do this thing as you move on to OP8. Thank you very much.
Okay, super. I think so. Just quickly to respond to BMS, we already have a provision for strategic grantees in the design of SGP sort of 8. We also have a knowledge management sort of grant, and we also have upscaling grants. So we have these 3 instruments which are kind of available in the design, because I think this has been thought through. As UNDP, we worked on district level SDG localization indicators for the entire Northeast region. So I think maybe that was what Tripura was using when you actually met them. And you can actually have a quick word with Isabel. Also, the lady at the back who asked about refugees, we have a project in the Northeast, and maybe you can connect with us bilaterally, because it's not really the topic in the conversation today, but we're happy to kind of engage with you on that piece. So I'd like to thank the panelists for the wonderful sort of session. And of course, it's very clear that SGP 8 can't only be about more grantees. It has to be about sort of building enabling systems, demonstrating the power of community-led pilots, and I think also mainstreaming and upscaling, and women-led approaches, which are truly transformational, I think, from the get-go. So thanks very much, and back to you, the MC.
Thank you to the moderator and the panelists for this engaging session. May I now request the Pankaj sir to please felicitate the panelists. Thank you, everyone. As we reach the end of this insightful thematic track, may I invite Mr. Manish Kumar Pandey to offer the vote of thanks, please.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much. It is such a pleasure to express my vote of thanks to all the panelists, all the NGO members who are present here, all the communities who are also part of this session. I would like to express my sincere thanks to Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change for extending their support for implementation of small grants program. We also would like to acknowledge the sincere thanks to our regional advisory committee chairs, regional advisory committee members, the members of the National Steering Committee, who are, some of them are not present and some of them present. I would like to express my sincere thanks to the UNDP team, who are actually working very closely with Terry for their valuable guidance on time. I would like to express my sincere thanks to Terry senior colleagues who are guiding us all through this project for implementation of the small grants program. Thank you so much for attending this session. Thank you so much.